welcome back to Go Ham. Today we have a really exciting guest for everybody. It is Nina Tulio. She is a salon industry expert and has 28 years of success in this business. So let's get it going. All right. So welcome to Go Ham, Nina. We're so happy to have you. If you don't mind just doing a quick kind of intro about who you are and what you bring to the industry, because we know how much value you bring, but I'd love the audience to as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you guys. I have been in this business for 28 years, and every time I say it, I'm like, where did the time go? Because I think it went by so fast. I am actually originally from Pennsylvania, so my salon was in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So we have that in common. I love that. And after I've served many facets in this industry, and worked as a salon manager and worked as a district manager for a chain, and then moved to Florida and opened up 5 salons in 1 year with 2 of my partners and my mentors. And after I was with them for about 8 years or so, I just decided that it was time to do my own thing. So I moved back from Florida to Pennsylvania, opened up my salon in 2006, and had a really great run and really enjoyed being a salon owner. But I knew that I wanted to do education, independent education, and more so it started out for the salon owner, because I just felt at the time there wasn't a lot of camaraderie and support for the commission salon owner. So in 2016, decided to sell my business, and my husband and I moved. He got a new job, so we moved to Connecticut, which we were supposed to move south, but we ended up moving to Connecticut. Kind of took one for the team on that one in the weather department.
Yeah.
And started my independent education in Connecticut, met some really, really great people there. And I have been doing this ever since. So I really just help serve independent artists, commission salon owners, helping them understand the back end of their business. So helping them understand pricing and profit and doing it guilt-free. So it's kind of become my passion, but obviously just love serving people and really helping them understand that they can serve clients and also make a profitable, create a profitable, sustainable business too. So that's kind of the long and short of it.
I love that. So just to preface this, Nina and I connected a few weeks ago when one of our top stylists had reached out and started connecting with you for some additional guidance and mentorship within her own business. So I was luckily able to hop on one of the calls that you guys had, and it was really nice hearing a different perception on a lot of different things. So with that, that's when we decided we would love to have you on and just pick your brain on some things. So I think something that a lot of salon owners are wondering today is why their stylists are choosing to leave. So I think if we can get started with basically like, what is one thing that salon owners do that is costing them good stylists?
Well, I mean, there could be a couple things, right? I mean, I think I actually just wrote a blog about this on what stylists are craving from their commissioned salon owner in 2025. And, I feel like stylists want growth. They want to know how they're going to grow, and they want to know what growth looks like, how they're going to make more money. And if they don't have a clear compensation package and they don't understand how they're going to be getting paid, that can be one area of a point of contention. So growth and compensation, also the culture of the salon. If it's not cohesive, if it isn't fair, if it isn't psychologically safe, if it is not providing an environment for them where they feel like they can be themselves and they can show up and they can share their thoughts and ideas, just feel safe in all ways, that is another point of contention, right? Because people want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves. And if they feel that the culture is all over the place and it's not cohesive, they may not jump into another commissioned salon. They may just feel that the next option for them is to go out on their own. I would say and there's several of these, but I'm just kind of picking my top 3. But last but not least is inflexibility. Now, I know as commissioned salon owners that there has to be some sort of structure there when it comes to the schedule, but I'm real big on structured flexibility. And people ask me, they're like, what does that shit mean? Like, how are you structured and still have flexibility? There's structure within the business. There's structure that go along with your core values and your brand and your beliefs. That's the structure. That's the standard. Mm-hmm. But we're flexible in our approach and how to get the stylist to believe in it, be a part of it, and then execute. So every stylist is different. We have to be flexible in the approach. We also have to understand that if we're running businesses like we did back in 2015, it's not going to hit today in 2025 and beyond. So with the flexibility, it doesn't mean that they get to come and go and do whatever they want and they can show up late. And that's not what I mean by that. But they want a little bit more autonomy in their schedule, and they want to be able to have the option to, have a little bit more freedom and a little bit more flexibility when it comes to time off. So I think those would be my top three. The leadership too, that's a whole other category. Leadership, it has to be so strong and so supportive and so clear. And if there's no leadership, people feel lost. They're in a commission space because they want to be guided. And if there isn't strong leadership, there's always going to be one person that's going to step up in the business, and it's not going to be run the way that the owner wants it to be run. It's going to be run by a stylist that is running it the way that they think it wants to be run, and it can cause a lot of confusion. So I said 3, but that's really 4.
That was super insightful. Now, kind of leading into the next question that would come up is basically about leadership and poor leadership. And I know that you talk a lot about emotional intelligence in leaders. Could you talk to us more about that?
Sure. I think, we have to be aware as leaders, and we have to have the emotional intelligence to know when to be quiet. And that's hard for us because we are talkers, we are fixers, we like to serve and we like to do. And a lot of what I see is, there are owners out there, and I was one of them, so I speak from experience, that operate from a space of fear. And when you operate from a space of fear and it kind of hinders your awareness, you don't listen, you become reactive, and you also avoid. And those are 3 things that we really have to lean into as leadership. And the other thing too is really taking accountability for your own shit. And so I think when it comes to the emotional intelligence side of being a leader, we have to listen to our people. I'm really big about talking about creating a people first salon, and that means that you put your people first. It means that you have to listen to their needs, their wants, their goals, and their dreams, and we coach them to it. We don't coach them to our own goals and dreams because people shut down, right? It's not important to them. We have to coach them on ways where they see value. And so when we're reactive and we avoid and we don't listen, the stylist and the employees, they shut down. The other side of this, I think, which is incredibly important since, COVID in 2020, is that when your leadership isn't strong and you're running from a fear-based space and you are not aware in terms of the emotional intelligence side, we tend to lack empathy. And I feel like empathy is probably one of the number one things that help people connect. And we have to be able to put ourselves in the stylist and the employee's shoes. We have to lead with empathy and care and compassion because we've all been through a lot of shit. And when you sign up to be a salon owner, you're saying, I'm responsible for these people. I'm responsible for keeping the doors open, which means I'm responsible to listening to their wants and their needs. And I'm not going to react. I'm going to learn how to be empathetic in situations. And again, I really coach to a servant style leader. People get confused and they think that if you're there to serve, you're going to do anything and everything that people ask for. It's actually the opposite. It's just that you're listening to what their needs are and then you respond accordingly.
I love that. I feel like with we just opened 2 businesses in the past year and a half, and we're trying to coach the main owners of those companies, how we lead. And when you were coming up with those 10 commandments, I think it's a mindset shift of okay, these people don't work for me, I work for them. And I think it's so important. So what's your approach when you have a salon owner that doesn't have the self-awareness or that type of mindset? How do you shake them to be this is what you need to do?
Well, I mean, I have a leadership framework that I coach to, and there's 8 parts to it. And it's a lot of what I learned. I took a Harvard business class about 2 years ago, and I think I mentioned this maybe when we were on our call, I can't remember, but it was a culture and leadership class, and it was 4 hours a week on a Zoom call. And at first I was kind of how am I going to get into this, right? How am I going to sit for 4 hours on a Zoom call? It was the most incredible and insightful class that I have ever taken. And I got to sit with people, CEOs and leaders from around the globe. And I learned well beyond even what I thought a people first salon was or people first business, or what servant style leadership meant. And so I think there has to be a framework there, and there has to be an understanding of, number one, your own core values and what you believe in. That has to be set first, but you have to put the time in to learn how to lead. There are some people who leadership comes really easy, but there are some people who almost have to take a class or a course or read a book. Or I'm a big Simon Sinek fan. I love the way he leads. It's all about servant style leadership. And that's what I did too, because I wasn't the best leader all the time. I really had to dive into and take classes and courses with people that I looked up to. And so I think people turn a blind eye because they don't feel that it's important to lead. But I think you have to invest. It's like a muscle. You have to keep, if you want to build muscle in your body, you have to keep going to the gym every day. It's the same thing with leadership. You have to feed into it, and you have to really study it. And I think with the framework that I've created, which a lot of it is from that class that I took from Harvard Biz, it really helps people understand the empathy side, because that's one of the components. Understanding the psychological safety side, understanding that people want fun. That's actually one of the frameworks, is like you have to create a fun environment. And I think the more you lean into it, instead of avoiding it, and the more you understand it's important and you start to educate yourself on it and practice it, that's when it becomes a little bit easier. So you really have to apply yourself, and you really have to apply yourself and spend time with people you look up to. And it's just like any other education, but you also have to practice what you preach.
With all of that being said, have you ever been put in a position where you had to call out an owner that you're working with?
Yes. Absolutely, yes. I think people hire me for many different reasons, but a lot of it is just accountability. Salon owners are incredibly smart and so in tune and intuitive, but we also doubt ourselves and live in that fear space. And so sometimes they're just looking for someone to validate what they're saying, thinking, and doing. And I think people hire me because I'm a straight shooter, and I'm no bullshit, and I'm going to tell you the things that you need to hear in the most kind way, because I really practice what I preach, and I lead from a space of empathy and kindness and compassion. And yeah, it's hard to do that, but it's kind of like, hey, let's stop for a second. And have you ever thought about maybe you're contributing to the problem? Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought and kind of removed yourself? Because I had to. When I caused a lot of the problem in my business financially, I had to take a step back and say, am I the problem? Because I'm the only one making the decisions here. So, yes, I've had to call people out in the most kind way and get them to start to, you almost have to look at your business from a different level. You kind of have to remove yourself, because when you're so in it, you don't see shit because you're just doing every single day. But if you can elevate and you can kind of look at your business from the top and say, wow, maybe I didn't handle that the best, or maybe that decision doesn't align with my brand. Maybe I am the one that's fueling the fire here. And I think that comes with self-awareness, that comes with the emotional intelligence side, and saying, I screwed up. Yeah. I need to take accountability, and I need to pivot. And so it's a hard thing to do. And sometimes people don't want to hear it, but I think they respect me enough to know that I'm going to tell them the things that are important and the things that are going to shift their business, and they trust me. And so I'm not going to just say it to say it. If I say it, it's because they really need to shift some things, and then I'm going to show them how we can shift it. I'm not just going to leave them hanging. So it's not a fun conversation, but I have had to have it before.
Oh man, I can only imagine. Must be tough.
Yeah.
I have a question.
It's an interesting one.
I just have a quick question for you, and it kind of shifts from the owners to stylists in one of their biggest fears, and that would be raising prices. So if I know you said you're a straight shooter, what would your advice be to a stylist who is fearful of raising prices?
I think the first thing is that, and I really can put myself in their shoes because I was the stylist that was nervous to have price increases, but I was also the owner that was nervous to have price increases. And I think what helped me a lot was to stop thinking like a hairstylist and really put my business hat on. So we have to take the stylist hat off and we have to put the business hat on. And we have to understand that we're running a business. When you're a commissioned hairstylist, you're also running a business within the business. And the more nervous you are about these price increases and it's emotional based, you're going to stay in that space. If I raise my prices, Karen's going to get upset. She's not going to come back. And then it's going to be a domino effect. And then she's going to tell her friends and everybody's going to be bothered and no one's going to come. That's the space that we typically live in. Or they're going to get mad at me and they're going to be upset with me, which I lived in that space for a long time. And I think what helped was to shift and think, wait a minute. Number one, I'm running a business. And in order for me to run a business successfully, I have to stop making decisions based on emotion, and I have to start making decisions based on facts and data. And I can still serve my clients and have price increases. I can still serve my clients and run a successful, sustainable business. And honestly, and I want people to hear this loud and clear, because I started, 2006, I was doing like $18 haircuts when we started. It was super low. And I then shifted and moved the business into $50 haircuts over time. And I had clients that were with me during that time in the duration. What I noticed was the clients that actually stayed with me, because there were clients that stayed with me from the shift, they actually respected me more. They respected me more in raising my prices and elevating the standard of my business than the ones that were always trying to get something for free. And so I think you have to be rooted in who you are and who you want to serve. You have to know that you're running a business. You can still serve and run a business and be successful at the same time. But I also think that, I say this a lot to people. If you haven't raised your prices in a while, a year, 2, 3 years, and they leave you, they're going to go somewhere else and they're going to pay a lot more. So why would you not want to continue to serve and elevate and grow your business and make more money? They're going to support you in that because most people want to cheer for you when you have a price increase. They're gonna have to go somewhere else and pay more money. So it really is all in the mindset and thinking, I'm running a business. They're gonna have to go somewhere else and they're gonna pay more money anyway. And also, how can I run a successful business keeping my prices the same when costs are constantly increasing?
So true.
And not even costs for business owners, but the cost of living.
Right.
And I have a podcast about this and I talk about this. There's a perception here where people think that they always have to ask for more commission. And I actually ran the numbers on the podcast and it showcases that the commission percentage isn't going to give you the amount of money that you want to make. It's important, don't get me wrong, we don't ignore it. But it's the price increase, it's the pricing that's actually going to get you to make the money that you want to make. A 2% bump in commission isn't going to compare in having, comparison to a 10% price increase. So I think it's the mindset of all of what I just said, but also understanding how valuable you are. You have to understand how much value and focus on the value add as opposed to focusing on what you're going to lose if you have a price increase. So focusing on what you're going to gain and giving value and getting new clients as opposed to focusing losing Karen and Judy.
I love it. I love it so much. And if you don't mind sharing the name of your podcast so we can make sure our audience heads over there as well. What is it?
Sure. So I have my Make That Money podcast, which is all about money, profit, pricing. That's my lane. But I do have another podcast with my best friend, Mr. Jay Ladner, and it's called No Stylist Left Behind. And we do have guests on that podcast as well. But the podcast I was talking about the episode is on the Make That Money podcast.
Awesome.
Great.
I do have a question now that we're on this topic of raising prices and money mindset and all of that. I'm curious to know from your perspective and it's two parts. The first part is going to be, as a stylist, what parts of your business are going to indicate it's time to raise your prices? And then the second part of this question would be, from a commissioned salon owner, what are the KPIs that you're paying attention to for a stylist to make sure it's time for them to raise their prices?
It's actually going to be the same for both.
Cool.
It's demand, demand, demand. So we look at, number one, we look at productivity percentage, and when we look at this, this is loose, right? Because if we're working on a growth plan, a level system, a benchmark system, whatever you want to, call it, it's going to vary for each tier, right? But the productivity, when we start to see increasing productivity, and let's just say that, we have it set up where we're looking for someone to move up and get a raise at 60%, right? Maybe that's like a level one. And we're looking to get them to that 60%. Productivity percentage is key number one that we're going to be looking at. If they're consistently riding at 45% commission and the goal is 60, well, we have to continue to work with them and coach them to get them to work to that 60. That's going to make sense to actually have the increase. With that demand and productivity, then is going to, you have to look into how are they booking out? Do they have space in their schedule? Are they booking out 2-3 weeks? Are they booking out a month? Or do they still have gaps in their schedule? So the demand is really important here when we're looking at price increases. Also, when we're looking at service dollars, anytime we're looking at demand, we're looking at service dollars, we're looking at productivity percentage, we're looking at new client count. So how many new clients are they getting in? Are they retaining those new clients that are coming in, right? Because in the growth plan that I have, they have to acquire a certain amount of new clients to come in the door. And it gets less and less as they grow through this growth plan, as they get busier. But if they're 60% booked and they're getting one new client a week when they should be getting 4 or 5, that's a coachable, teachable moment. So everything really is siphoned on demand and siphoned on and looked over when it comes into service dollars. But one thing that we do have to pay attention to, now this doesn't necessarily have to do with price increases, but it's something that we have to keep our eye on, is if we're getting new clients and our service dollars are great and our productivity is great, our average ticket is great, are we retaining those clients? We struggle with new client retention in this business. We've always have. And if we start to see that they're getting 4 new clients a week, amazing, great. Well, are they retaining 0? Are they retaining 1? What does that look like? And retention is something I feel like that we don't pay a lot of attention to, but we need to because it's so incredibly important for the business. So it's really both the same for owners and for stylists. Everything is really looked at in terms of demand, productivity, sales, and the new client count. But I think stylists tend to get a little bit lost in that, and they just feel that they want to grow. Like they want to, I need to have sometimes you have stylists that are like, I need to have an increase, I need to grow. And we're like, wait a minute, we have to make sure that the demand is there in order for you to have this price increase, because you will lose some clients when you have an increase. It just happens. Mm-hmm. And if they don't have enough business to support that loss, they're actually going to take a slide back in service dollars, and they're going to take a slide back in how much money they're bringing in.
And a lot of that are things that I think we pay attention to. The retention mm-hmm. piece is interesting because I've been in a position where new guest retention may be low for a specific stylist. Mm-hmm. Now, when you're in that situation where you have low guest retention for a specific stylist, what are you then analyzing within their business to figure out why they are not keeping new guests?
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing with new client retention. We have to understand the stylist and what kind of services they're doing. Because if I'm pulling a retention report and it's first month in, and then they're coming back in 90 days, well, if they're doing a lot of lived-in looks, those people aren't coming back within 90 days. They're coming back in 4, 5, 6 months later. So you're going to get a skewed version of what that retention percentage looks like. So that's number one. We have to know what kind of services they're doing, and we have to adjust the report accordingly. The first thing that we look at, there are 3 areas actually when it comes to like why clients don't return and why a stylist would have a low retention. Number 1 is quality of work. Number 2 is their price versus value. So does the price equal the value? And then total client experience. And part of that total client experience is the consultation. 8 times out of 10, when someone doesn't return, it has to do with the lack of consultation and maybe a thorough or clear consultation. maybe there are some questions missed. Maybe there is something that is left out in terms of maintenance or, expectation on when to come back, how to maintain at home. But a lot of times, it's a quick consultation. And when you have a new guest coming in, we had to extend, and this was the idea from my stylist, but they asked if we could extend the time for their services for new guests because they're like, I don't want to rush, especially for color clients. So for color clients, we added an additional 30 minutes onto the service. That's what made the team comfortable. And we really would pride ourselves on client experience. So I was like, yeah, let's do it, And some people might say, well, time is money. Yeah, time is money, but you get one time to make a first impression. So I'd rather book out 30 minutes than rush with the client and try to do backflips and somersaults in a 10-minute consultation when they really need 30 because they just showed up with 15 pictures. One is gold and one is cool. We have to walk through the process of all of this. So with the quality of work, that kind of speaks for itself. That's just one area. And that would be, if you do get a lot of reservices from that stylist. But the consultation is so incredibly important. And then the price versus value in 2025 and beyond, I'm telling you now, value is so important to the client. They will pay. If they feel that the value exceeds what they're paying, they will come back. But if things are being kind of like rushed, if the stylist is, not paying attention to their needs, the biggest thing for me is that used to drive me nuts when people were like on their phone, if they're coming late, if these are all things that add up, there's no value in that. Like if I'm paying $400, $300 for a service and my stylist answers the phone while I'm in the chair, I'm out. Peace, you'll never see me again. Like that is the shit that is driving clients crazy. So we have to really learn how to elevate the value and be present with our clients from the time they sit down until the time they leave the chair.
I know some salon owners talk about like the struggle with the younger generation. What do you think like this younger generation is craving from like commission salons and from leaderships right now, and why are salon owners struggling to find new talent?
Well, the younger, there's such a knock on the younger generation, and I think and yes, I understand times have changed and maybe the behaviors are a little bit different, but I think we have to adjust and pivot our leadership in the way that we communicate with people. You're not going to change the standard of your business, but you're going to change the approach. And I think that stylists, number one, they want to be in an inclusive environment and they want to be in a culture that is supportive and they want to feel like they're a part of something. And so they're looking for that camaraderie. They're looking for that sense of belonging. And I think if they don't feel that, they're not going to set up a second interview, right? If even on the phone interview, if they're not feeling that, they're not going to come in for that first interview. I think the other thing that they're really looking for is fair and honest compensation and clear compensation. They have to know what the growth plan looks like, how they're going to make more money, and how they're going to grow in this company. And if they don't feel it and they don't get it from the interview, or they're with you and it was promised to them, because there's a lot of like promise, but under deliver. That doesn't only happen client facing, that happens behind the scenes too with owners where they promise, but they under deliver, they're going to leave. And so we can't kind of wing it when it comes to compensation. We can't wing it when it comes to a growth plan. And we definitely can't wing it when it comes to culture, because like we're over the toxic salon, we're over the inflexibility, we're over, the working, nonstop. And that generation has moved on. And so they want to feel like they can speak their mind. They want to feel like they can, they want to feel like they can be themselves. I think that's the biggest part of all of this when we're talking about the younger generation. A lot of the conversation is they don't want to work, they don't want to show up. It's really about finding the right people, because they do want to work, but they want to work differently. They want to work and have a little bit more autonomy. They want to work where they feel like they have a say in something. They want to work in a place where they feel that they're included. And I think that, we run into a hard time. I can say this very clearly and confidently. The owners that I know and the owners that I coach that are doing well and killing it are open to change. They've changed their direction. They've changed their approach. They've changed their leadership. They've changed their growth plan, from having 15 KPIs to having 3. We really work on being adaptive and really pivoting. And I think if you're going to, also you have to understand that you're talking to individuals. The way that you would coach Susie isn't going to be the way that you would coach Joan. You have to know and understand them as people. And that's what they like, that individual approach. They don't want to be this blanket, everybody's a number and everybody's just in this big thing. You have to see them and you have to understand what makes them tick and what excites them and what they value. And then you coach them to that. So those are the things that I believe that they're craving, in this younger generation. And I just speak from my own experience. My team was young. I had a younger team and they kicked ass and they hustled and we worked hard. Like I was in the generation too. Like we worked a lot. We were around the clock. We're texting after hours. Like I'm not suggesting do that now. Things have changed since, I opened my business in 2006, but they hustled and they showed up and they were responsible. And I was really lucky to have such great people and they were young. They were younger too. So I think it's really understanding how to guide them and not being so inflexible with your approach and leadership and understanding that, yeah, they're different, but we have to learn about them and learn what really makes them tick first before we expect something from them.
One question for you. If you had to strip it down and give any advice to stylists, what do you think the best top secret to success behind the chair would be?
Work your ass off.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to work hard. There is a lot of commotion, in the industry right now, I think, over the last couple of years of changing this narrative of you only have to work, 9 to 2 and you don't have to work nights and you don't have to work Saturdays. And, you only say yes to paid opportunities and you don't have to, and I'm like, what? Like, I never met anyone in my life that has been successful that hasn't worked their ass off. You have to work hard. You have to show up. And yeah, you know what? Sometimes in the beginning, you're going to come in early and you're going to stay late. Sometimes you're going to work Saturdays. Sometimes you're going to work nights, right? Mm-hmm. But as we grow in the business, then we can become a little bit more flexible in our approach. And I think that's the biggest misconception is like you're going to just walk in here and things are going to be handed to you and you can work 1-2 days a week and 3 hours a day and you're going to make, $200,000. Now, I always say you have to scale up to scale back. You hit it hard first, hit the ground running, do all of the things right now. And then when you become booked and busy and you're scaling the business and you're making the money that you want to make, then we can scale back a little bit. Then we can start to make some tweaks. Then we can adjust the schedule. Then we can do all the things. You just have to work hard. And number 2, be freaking consistent. Be consistent in your approach. Don't post on Instagram for a week and think shit's going to pop, because it's not. You're going to be consistent for 6 months to 8 months straight. That's when things pop, right? I mean, it's just, and I speak what I do. Like, I've been in this business for 28 years. I've been doing this independent education. I've been working with Oligo Professional for 5 years. I work weekends. I work nights. I work Saturdays. Sometimes I work 12 hours a day. I'm still doing shit for free. Like, it has to make sense. There has to be opportunity there when you're saying yes to things for free. But I just be consistent in your approach and work hard.
There's so much truth behind everything you just said.
Yeah. This has been so insightful. I just have one final piece that I would love your opinion on. Post-COVID,
Sure.
I feel like it's been pretty difficult for stylists and even salon owners, just in the industry, really to find passion and excitement and just staying inspired, really. What do you say to individuals who might feel like they're lacking in that area and could use some, excitement?
So lacking in inspiration and excitement in the business?
I feel like what we talk about a lot is how I feel like we used to have these incredible events that just kept people inspired and everyone was excited by education. And I feel like after COVID, that took a dive, and it's kind of been hard to come back to it.
Yeah.
So I
And
didn't know.
it's been really hard for owners. It's been hard for everyone. Stylists was really struggling. It was so impactful time for everybody. Owners were really just struggling and grasping at straws to keep their businesses open. It was a really, really tough time. And I think we did lose the excitement a little bit because we were scared and we were in fear. And that fear and panic doesn't go away. I also think that, the education is important. It has to be at the forefront. Stylists are looking for education. They really want that to be a part of their growth plan. But when it comes to excitement, I think, and keeping people inspired, I think ask your team, like get them involved. Like what are you looking for? What is going to excite you? What do you feel? And maybe it is education, but maybe it's just doing something together. Maybe it's just going to dinner. Maybe it is doing something outside of the salon that is building the team and building camaraderie that doesn't even have to do with a haircut or a color service. And I think it really is, going back to my framework, it really is about creating fun. It has to be a fun environment for them, and you have to be inspired. You have to be the one to lead the ship on that and be the person that's inspired too and showing up like that. But I always say, get the team involved. Like, what can we do to make this fun? Like, what can we do to become inspired again and really, trust each other even more and really support each other? And sometimes the best things happen outside of the salon.
Love that. We definitely feel that. Yep.
Yes,
We're so
I feel like
aligned.
our culture started outside of the salon, to be honest.
That's
So
true.
many friendships and relationships were built outside the salon and then brought inside, and vice versa.
Oh,
Yeah.
this was so insightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. This is awesome. I can talk to you guys all day.
Same.
Seriously.
Likewise.
We feel
Yeah.
the same. If you don't mind just sharing where the audience can find you.
Sure. I live on Instagram, so you can find me at Nina Tulio on Instagram. You can check out my website. I have a ton of resources for you, courses, but also just free stuff too that you can dive into with profitability and pricing, and check out my podcast as well. Everything you can find at ninatulio.com.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully we can get you back on soon. I'm
Thank
sure that
you.
there's so much more we could dive into.
I would love that. Thank you.
Aw,
Thank
thanks,
you so
Nina.
much.
Appreciate it. Have a great day.